Okay, you are not going to believe who just showed up in a Manhattan courtroom. Seriously.
Oh, go on.
Forget the movie sets, forget the tech stuff. Ashton Kutcher, he was there, front and center, as a witness.
Wow, in the Diddy Combs trial.
Exactly, in the Diddy trial. And suddenly, all those characters he played, the venture capital genius persona, it just fades. Because the charges against Diddy are, well, they're incredibly serious. Sex trafficking, organized abuse, really dark stuff.
And Kutcher's connection isn't just casual, right? He was part of that whole scene back in the day.
Yeah, the Hollywood Rat Pack, they called it.
Yeah.
Finn, Diddy, others.
Yeah.
Known for, living large.
It's just such a stark contrast, isn't it? The public image versus this very grim reality of a courtroom dealing with these kinds of allegations.
Totally. And his history with Diddy makes you immediately think, okay, what did he actually see? What did he know?
Right. That association raises so many questions.
And to get this, apparently, when he took the stand, the courtroom went completely silent. You could just feel it.
I bet. The tension must have been unreal.
All that media speculation beforehand. Well, it seems like there was good reason for it. I mean, they had stuff. The prosecution wasn't messing around.
What kind of stuff?
Emails, security logs from Diddy's places, even video footage, apparently. They'd clearly connected him through more than just, old party photos.
Okay, so they laid the groundwork, showing tangible evidence that signals his involvement was, significant, not just a passing acquaintance.
Exactly. And then, the first thing they show him, a photo. Grainy, old school.
From when?
Diddy's 2009 white party. And boom, there's Kutcher right in the mix, looking friendly. Seeing that image blown up in court with everything hanging in the air, that must have hit hard.
Yeah, that visual anchor just puts him right there. Makes everything he says next about that time feel much heavier,
So he starts talking. Admits, yeah, they were friends. He even, looked up to Diddy back then.
Okay, the admission.
But then the tone changes. He starts talking about things he saw. And maybe more importantly, things he ignored.
The ignored part, that's telling.
And that's when this new Hollywood Rat Pack comes up again. Diddy, Danny Masterson, Wilmer Valderrama. It started with parties, he says, then business deals.
Yeah.
And then something else.
Something else. That sounds deliberately vague and ominous.
Doesn't it? That kind of progression, parties to business to something else, that often signals when things might have gone off the rails.
It hints at something beyond just networking. Yeah, something hidden.
And he talks about these curated experiences. Doesn't that sound like code?
Code for controlled. Secretive, maybe?
Exactly, like sanitizing what was really happening. And he admits it himself. I didn't ask enough questions.
That's a huge admission. It points to an environment where maybe you couldn't ask questions or didn't want to know the answers.
Or maybe you were rewarded for not asking. Then he just drops in, he admits witnessing things that, looking back now, he recognizes as criminal behavior.
Wow. Okay, that's a major escalation. From ignoring things to witnessing actual crimes.
Yeah. And he paints this picture, right? Phones being taken at the door, guests being sort of managed, directed, and NDAs. Non-disclosure agreements being handed out constantly.
Those protocols, confiscating phones, managing guests, the NDAs that screams control, a deliberate effort to keep whatever was happening contained. That's always a red flag.
And Kutcher himself signed them multiple times. Said he thought it was just, standard Hollywood stuff. Everyone did it.
Which just shows how normalized that secrecy became in that circle. Routine NDAs can be a powerful silencing tool, especially if people don't fully grasp what they're signing away.
And they have audio. From a party in 2013, you can hear Kutcher apparently worried about filming, saying something like, "This is too much."
And what was the response?
Someone just brushes it off. Says everyone there has already signed the NDAs.
Chilling.
And when the lawyers pressed him on who these guests were,
Yeah.
Kutcher got hesitant. Said they were models, other people who maybe didn't really understand what kind of party it was or what the NDA meant.
That audio is damning. It shows the power imbalance, the discomfort being ignored, the potential lack of real consent or understanding from some people there. Just wow.
Then he talks about the brotherhood, as he
Right.
called it, but also a machine.
A machine. Interesting choice of words.
Yeah. All those stories, private jets, exclusive secret locations, they sounded glamorous back then, right? But now he says it all feels sinister.
That shift in perspective, looking back with new understanding, is key here. Glamour turning sinister.
And these approved rooms at parties. What's that about? It sounds like layers of secrecy, certain people allowed in, certain things happening away from everyone else.
Definitely suggests a hierarchy and hiding specific activities. Very deliberate.
And he cops to hearing things back then, things that sounded illegal, exploitative, but he just brushed them off. Just rumors, he told himself.
The willful ignorance again. Probably easier than confronting the reality, especially if you wanted to stay in the circle.
Then there's this specific incident, a yacht party, 2012. Young women there who had apparently all signed NDAs. He apparently laughed about it then, but now describes it with this deep regret. It's unsettling.
Yeah, that juxtaposition of past behavior and present regret is really powerful and disturbing. It highlights the conflict he's expressing now.
Then Danny Matheson's name comes up more directly. Kutcher says Masterson became darker, more paranoid, more controlling.
And their connection to Diddy was tight.
Very tight, he emphasizes. It really feels like this interconnected web, influence flowing between them.
That dynamic, especially if it became darker and more controlling, could absolutely foster or enable problematic behavior within the group.
Kutcher even admits that his own white party idea back in 2009, the one from the photo, had another agenda besides just charity.
Oh, he didn't say what.
Didn't specify, but the implication was it wasn't just about raising money. It makes you wonder what the real purpose was. Maybe access, networking, something else.
Using charity as a cover, that adds another layer of potential manipulation.
And then the classic reason for staying quiet in that world.
Right.
Learning when to shut up to protect his career, his brand.
The self-preservation instinct. Very common, unfortunately.
He confirms there was an actual guest list for these things, but also a blacklist. Ask too many questions, cross the wrong person, and you were out. Cut off.
A blacklist. Wow. That really reinforces the idea that access was conditional, compliance was key. It sounds almost cult-like, that level of control.
And he recounts this one really disturbing encounter involving a female guest and another celebrity whose name was redacted in court. He was basically told, don't talk about it.
Just explicit instruction to be silent that speaks volumes about the fear and intimidation tactics possibly used.
Yeah. And then he gets emotional, admitting he was part of the circle, part of the problem, and didn't do enough. That felt like a real moment of reckoning for him on the stand.
That acknowledgement of complicity, if genuine, is significant, moving from observer to participant, even through inaction.
Then this term comes up, freak off. Apparently it's been whispered about for years, but Kutcher brought it into the courtroom.
Okay, what does that mean, according to him?
He described them as these private, super exclusive events, phones taken, obviously, sometimes guests were even blindfolded, presented as sort of edgy performance art, but he added, not really.
That sounds deeply disturbing, masking potential exploitation as art.
Incredibly, he said he first got invited to one way back in 2005, thought it was just like a weird theme party.
Yeah.
Immediate regret. He described seeing hidden cameras, people who looked genuinely terrified, rooms that were strictly off limits. It paints a very, very dark picture.
Those specific details, the surveillance, the fear he perceived, the restricted access, they lend a chilling credibility to those rumors.
And his name apparently was found on a digital guest list for these things, tagged green light.
Green light, meaning what? Trusted. Cleared for access.
Exactly. Signifying he was considered safe, part of the inner circle.
Yeah.
And the NDAs for these. Even more extensive. Even staff had to sign them. The secrecy was intense.
That level of control, the trust indicators like green light, the universal NDAs, it points to an operation designed for absolute secrecy.
And leaving. Getting out of this network, this power structure, this system, as he called it. He said it was incredibly difficult.
I can imagine power structures like that don't let go easily.
He recounted trying to stop attending around 2014. Diddy's alleged response. You don't quit, you're in, or you're out forever.
Wow. That's not subtle. That sounds like a direct threat.
No question. And right after that, mysterious things started happening. Investment deals Kutcher was involved in suddenly fell through. He got a cryptic warning. You made someone nervous.
So direct consequences for trying to pull away. It links Diddy's influence directly to Kutcher's business and financial life.
Yeah. And Kutcher admits flat out, he was scared. Scared for his career, scared for his family. Because of Diddy's reach, he felt trapped.
That fear is palpable. It underscores the power imbalance and the perceived danger of defying someone like Diddy.
Then the testimony pivots a bit to the money side. How this whole lifestyle, these networks, were funded.
Right, the financial engine behind it all.
Kutcher, being the guy with connections in Hollywood and Silicon Valley, became this, bridge.
Connecting those two powerful worlds.
Exactly. And suddenly, you look at his deals, his investments, and names start popping up that are also linked to this Diddy scandal. It makes you really question how much of his business success was purely organic.
The lines blur. Diddy's influence potentially opening doors, facilitating deals. It suggests a much wider web.
Apparently, Diddy could make things happen in finance, open doors others couldn't. And get this, he set up companies that look like legitimate businesses, clubs, blogs, that sort of thing.
But they weren't just that.
No. According to Kutcher, they served other purposes. Marketing, yes, but also surveillance. Maybe even recruitment. It sounds incredibly calculated.
Using legitimate-seeming fronts for covert activities. That indicates a very sophisticated and potentially manipulative operation.
And there's this recurring mention of an anonymous investor, someone with ties to Diddy's overseas businesses. A shadowy figure.
The anonymous investor. That hints at potentially even bigger players or more complex financial structures hidden from view. Adds another layer of intrigue.
Then there are these financial records showing payments labeled consulting or event services. Pretty generic, right?
Standard business terms, yeah.
Except the dates for these payments apparently line up perfectly with the dates of some of these questionable parties.
That's not subtle at all. That looks like trying to disguise payments related to the parties.
And Kutcher admits he was involved with shell companies. Companies he didn't fully understand, but were likely used to obscure where the funding was really coming from.
Shell companies are a classic tool for hiding money trails. His admission is significant.
And why didn't he dig deeper? Ask more questions about all this. His answer was brutally honest. The money was good. And again, that fear of asking too much.
It comes back to that. The lure of money and success, combined with the fear of losing it all, leading to, well, ethical compromises and willful blindness.
They even got into specifics. An investment in a tech hub, another in a nightlife app, and the really worrying part, the sale of user data from these ventures.
Selling user data, that opens up a whole other area of potential exploitation.
And there was apparently a pitch deck for some kind of talent app. Part of the pitch. Offering discrete background checks. It just sounds so eerie, like a surveillance built into the business model.
That talent app concept, especially with the background check element, combined with the data selling, it paints a picture of an infrastructure that could be used for far more than just business. Possibly for control, leverage, exploitation.
Then he describes how things started to fray. The rat pack, that tight circle, started to fracture. Issues of control, apparently.
Power struggles within the group.
Seems like it. And there were consequences for disloyalty. After 2014, things really changed. Masterson got more paranoid, he said. Valderrama started creating distance, and the whispers started getting louder.
Whispers in Hollywood usually mean something serious is brewing below the surface. And people distancing themselves suggest growing unease or fear.
Yeah, people close to the core group started peeling away. Scared, Kutcher implies. And he felt it professionally, too. Projects stalled. PR deals vanished. Executives who used to take his calls suddenly went cold.
So, tangible professional consequences. It sounds like he was being systematically isolated, perhaps as a warning or punishment?
Maybe. Then there's this chilling moment at a gala. He runs into Diddy, who reportedly tells him, "You should be careful about what you don't remember."
Whoa, that's direct. A veiled threat about staying silent about the past?
And not long after, an anonymous USB drive arrives, containing embarrassing footage of Kutcher from years earlier, like 2012.
That's not veiled at all. That's blatant intimidation, using past actions as leverage.
Exactly. So fear becomes the driving force for Kutcher. Avoid confrontation. Try to back away quietly. But it didn't work.
How so?
Every time he tried to pull back, something would happen. Leaks to tabloids about him. His emails apparently got hacked. Threats of lawsuits. Just relentless pressure.
A coordinated campaign to keep him in line, it sounds like, to make distancing himself too costly.
He says his conscience really started bothering him. He realized the friendships weren't real anymore. They were just about damage control, especially after getting a heads up about a potential civil suit against another Rat Pack member.
That realization that it's all about managing scandals, not genuine connection, must have been a harsh wake-up call.
So he starts trying to untangle himself, quietly moving money, severing financial ties, but he still felt like Diddy's influence was always there, this shadow hanging over him.
It highlights how hard it is to truly escape such a powerful and potentially controlling network once you're deeply involved.
Fast forward to around 2020, Kutcher's actively trying to clean up his image, pivot more towards tech and philanthropy.
Trying to rebrand, move past that era.
Yeah. But the ground is shifting under everyone. More scandals are breaking in Hollywood. The Me Too movement has changed things. And eventually, Diddy's name starts hitting the headlines for serious allegations.
Past catching up.
Kutcher said he actually felt relieved when Diddy's properties were first raided, like maybe he was finally coming out.
Yeah.
But then the subpoenas started arriving for him, and all the old photos, the old connections dragged him right back into the spotlight.
The entanglement was too deep. Relief turning into dread, maybe.
Probably. Then federal agents show up with a warrant at his business properties.
Okay, that's serious. Direct federal interest in his affairs.
He initially stayed silent, said he was scared of legal trouble, scared of hurting other people who might still be vulnerable. It's a complex position.
Understandable, given the stakes and the potential for collateral damage.
But then, 2023, that damaging footage from a Hamptons party surfaces online. His explanation that it was just a branding shoot. Nobody bought it.
Yeah, the public reaction to that was pretty negative, wasn't it? The explanation didn't seem plausible to many.
Not at all. The backlash was intense. Endorsements started drying up, partnerships dissolved. He mentioned his wife, Mila Kunis, had apparently been urging him for years to distance himself from that whole scene.
So personal and professional consequences mounting.
Even his kids started asking questions about why people were saying negative things about him.
Yeah.
His whole carefully crafted, untouchable Hollywood image was just crumbling. A real fall from grace.
The ripple effects hitting every aspect of his life. It shows how interconnected it all was.
Then in the courtroom testimony, the focus shifts squarely onto Danny Masterson. And Kutcher said you could just feel the air change in the room when his name came up.
Given Masterson's own legal situation, that's not surprising. The connection is significant.
He talked about their shared history, all the way back to That 70s Show. How their networks, Masterson's reported Scientology ties, Kutcher's tech world connections, all kind of merged with Diddy's circle and influence.
Creating this potent mix of Hollywood, tech, possible religious influence, and Diddy's power structure.
And allegedly, this combined power was used to silence dissent, to protect people within the network. When the first accusations against Masterson started emerging years ago.
For the trial, you mean?
Yeah. Kutcher described behind-the-scenes efforts, favors being called in from different industries, media, maybe law enforcement, who knows all, to try and shield Masterson.
A coordinated defense network activating, essentially.
He even described a specific private dinner in 2017. You had studio executives, producers, artists, even Diddy's lawyer there. And the main topic, not Masterson's innocence, but how to manage the potential damage, how to control the story.
Focusing on damage control rather than the truth of the accusations. That tells you a lot about the priorities, reputation over everything.
And evidence was presented suggesting Kutcher's own team offered to help manage the optics for Masterson. Presented as helping a friend, but Kutcher admitted it was really about trying to bury the truth.
So his own camp was involved in the PR strategy.
Deeply. There was even a memo from a PR firm outlining a campaign to flood the internet with positive stories about Kutcher, Diddy, and Masterson, specifically timed around key moments in Masterson's legal troubles, like a pre-planned distraction campaign.
A playbook for deception, essentially. Using PR to manipulate search results and public perception. Highly organized.
Kutcher admitted it. I was part of the distraction machine. Why? Fear, he said. Fear of the whole thing collapsing, maybe fear of being implicated himself.
The pressure must have been immense.
And then this really chilling detail, he described a panic call from Masterson in 2019. Masterson was apparently threatening to take others down with him if things went bad, saying something like, "You know who signs the checks."
Pointing the finger back up the chain, implying financial control from someone, possibly Diddy.
That was the implication, yeah. A clear sign of where the ultimate power might have resided.
Wow, that's heavy.
Then they got into the mechanics of the cover-ups, this cleanup crew.
A cleanup crew, like in the movies.
Apparently, a whole system. Fixers, drivers, even medics on call, publicists, lawyers, all dedicated to making problems disappear. Quietly.
An infrastructure for scandal management.
He gave an example, a medical emergency at some overseas event involving someone connected to the group. Completely hushed up. Never made the news. Erased.
That level of coordinated cover-up is deeply concerning. It suggests impunity.
And how did they ensure silence? Kutcher described 3 tiers. First, simple hush money. Second, offering jobs or opportunities to keep people quiet and indebted. And third, outright threats.
Carrots and sticks. A multi-pronged strategy to maintain silence.
Financial records were even shown linking payments from Kutcher to a media consultant who was also heavily involved in Diddy's damage control operations.
The financial ties again, reinforcing that feeling of being trapped in this interconnected system.
Exactly. He felt he couldn't escape it. He talked about trying to gradually pull back, deleting old photos from social media, trying to erase the connection.
Just trying to scrub the past.
But he realized it's impossible.
Sure.
Someone else always has a copy, he said. The past is never fully gone, especially in that world.
True, especially with digital trails and so many people involved.
And there was apparently this chilling message sent to his wife, Mila Kunis, at some point. A reminder, basically, that even if you try to leave, the party never really leaves you.
That's incredibly ominous. A threat disguised as a casual remark, suggesting ongoing surveillance or influence.
It sounds like it, so why speak out now, after all this time, all this fear? Kutcher said he was just tired of erasing myself, tired of the facade, didn't want to be one of them anymore.
A breaking point, a desire to reclaim some sense of self, maybe. Break free from that complicity.
That's how it sounded. He made this really poignant statement about wanting to save whatever part of himself he still recognized.
A search for redemption, perhaps?
And when the prosecutor asked if you could go back, would you change anything? His answer was immediate. Walk away in 2005.
Yeah.
After that first freak-off party.
Wow. Regretting nearly 2 decades of involvement.
Yeah. Deep regret, he expressed, for staying, for playing the game, especially knowing or suspecting that people were being hurt along the way.
That's a heavy burden of regret to carry.
He even mentioned he'd written letters to some of the victims identified in the case. Not asking for forgiveness, he clarified, but just to acknowledge what he saw, what he now understands.
Acknowledging the reality, his inaction, that's a significant step, even if it's very late.
And he finished by offering to provide any more information the court needed. Just laid it out there.
Seems like a full unburdening then, or an attempt at one.
After he finished, the courtroom was apparently just stunned, silent. You could just feel the impact of everything he'd revealed.
I can only imagine the sheer weight of it all, laid bare like that.
And it leaves you, doesn't it? Wondering about the real motivation. Is it pure atonement? Is it self-preservation? Trying to get ahead of worse revelations? Maybe it's a mix of both. It's complicated.
It almost always is in situations like this. Human motivations are rarely simple, but the impact of the testimony itself is undeniable, regardless of the motive.
Absolutely undeniable. It just ripped back the curtain on this really dark underside of fame, power, and the whole Hollywood ecosystem.
Yeah.
So, as you're listening, think about all this. Really consider what it tells us about celebrity culture, sure, but more about the power dynamics hidden beneath the surface, about the choices people make or fail to make when faced with serious wrongdoing.
Yeah.
What is the real cost of silence, and what does it truly mean? What potential is there, even if it's complicated, to finally speak out?
Heavy questions, definitely a lot to unpack there.